You'll probably, those are you registered architects. The AIA National Convention is going to be in June here in the city in San Francisco. And
you'll probably, those are you,
was there oh, sorry, that was my own feedback, my own feedback from the recording. So the AIA has a body called the Technology and Architectural Practice, which is a group of design technologists who advise the AIA and AIA members about how technology is evolving and the importance of adapting operations with new technologies. The Technology and Practice Group is a national group that holds a convention or a symposium every year. This symposium has always been a standalone event in person prior to the pandemic. It moved virtually during the pandemic years. And then for the first time, that convention, that symposium is going to happen along with the AIA National Convention. So I think Wednesday, June the 7th, it's an all-day event called the TAP Symposium. And it's going to bring together a lot of CTOs and COOs from big companies, and as well as representatives from medium firms to discuss technology and the impact of technology in the profession. So if you plan to attend the AIA conference, check that event. I think it's included with your registration, and just check in the event registration, AIA TAP Symposium, and attend. I'm going to be helping with some of the logistics in the event, and if you want to know, how you can start shaping your firm for the future of technology, what's coming up, how to build a stronger technology practice. It's a rare opportunity that we have that at home. All right, let's see. This is last time we talked about BIM Collaborate Pro. I entitled you with a seat to have access to our project. And what I was saying, just to recap a little bit of the class last time, in order to BIM Collaborate Pro is it's a set of tools that allow us to work, share our models on the cloud, and centralize and distribute information about the projects in a common data environment that can be accessed with different levels of permissions by members from different teams. And in order to be a part of BIM Collaborate Pro, you need to secure a seat of a license, and you need to be invited to a tenant site. A tenant site is a project site. I discussed a lot how docs work, and last time I showed you, ways in which you can use docs to send information, review information, markups. I did a lot of I'm sorry. I did a lot of review of the features in docs, but I want to focus now on the method of starting a collaboration in the cloud from Revit. And so today, we don't have data sets, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new project, and then I'm going to host it on the cloud, and then I'm going to invite you to collaborate, and then I'm going to show you different ways in which you can work with consultants in a work share environment hosted by the cloud. A lot of you already have this in place, what I'm hearing. So this will resonate with you guys. Feel free to ask me questions at any point. I'm also going to review the design collaboration module and show you how we can create packages and share them and distribute them. All right. So the first 20 minutes is just going to me speaking on how to create a new project. I don't think I can ask you guys to each of you create a new central file. So just stay put, and then I invite you to collaborate in this project that I'm going to create. All right, so I'm going to open one of the sample files that ship with Revit. And at this point, you don't have to follow me. File, open, sample files, the rack, advanced sample project. All right, so assuming that this is a project that's living on your network, and then you're asked to start collaborating on the cloud. What that means is that this model needs to be moved from the local server location where it's living now into a cloud repository. And these project has several sheets, some schedules, but now it reached a point where I need the shared collaboration by an entire team. And so typically in the context of a single location office, you would save this as a central file and place the central file in the server, and then everybody connects to the server, right? In the context of a cloud collaboration, you can have multiple team members sitting geographically dispersed in different locations around the world. And as long as they have access to a Revit license and they are entitled within Collaborate Pro, they can collaborate jointly in a single model in a single project. So I'm going to show you how to create a new project from create a new central file in the cloud. So you go to the Collaborate tab, and then you hit the Collaborate button. You must save the file, and I'm going to save it in different locations, so I don't want to override the version I have here. So I'm going to save it in the in my desktop for now. So you hit collaborate, and Revit presented with two choices: collaborate in your server or collaborate in the cloud. I'm going to say collaborate in the cloud. Now, for this to work, the person who's doing this needs to be a project, most likely needs to be a project administrator of the tenant site, and needs to have the permission to access the appropriate folder. I am an administrator, so I'll be able to do that. And then there's this dialog box that is called Save a Cloud Model. So here I am presented to all the projects that I'm part of. And I'm going to switch accounts because I think I built this under the TMM arc. And the project was Revit Learning. This is the project everybody has access. And under the models architecture, this is the location I'm going to create this file, rack advanced sample project. Usually, the file folder structure is set up so that you don't see the work in progress of your consultants. So architects are restricted to access the architectural folders and structure their structural folder, etc. I'm going to save this into the cloud, which started the work sharing process. In this process, 2 work sets are created by default. Work set 1, and then share levels and grids. Every level and grid in the project is going to be placed in this bucket of information called share levels and grids. And then the rest of the geometry is going to be placed in this generic work set called work set 1. And you know the concept of a work set. So a lot of you have already experienced, but just to recap, a work set is a method by which we split the model, segregate the model in large pieces of geometry content so that we can selectively turn on and off areas of the model that are not part of our scope of work and improve the performance of the model. Work sets are not intended to be used as layers, or, I mean, Revit already has categories for that. But the main purpose of work sets is to split the model in buckets of information that can be selectively disabled to improve the performance of the project. That's the whole purpose. If the project is small and the team is small, sometimes it doesn't make sense to split a project in multiple work sets. If the project is complex and it has like a lot of links and a lot of different consultants, then it's probably good to think about how to better split a project. An example is you can have a project split by levels if it's like a multi-story, or you may want to split it by scope of work, like a shell and core is one work set, interiors is another work set, site is another work set, and definitely for every link file you should have a dedicated work set. Okay, so we have the project has been saved. Then I close it. Let's review the work sets. When you open the work set dialog box, these are the full work sets. And so it has this tabular display of information. I think the first column on the right side enable the visibility of that work sets in all the views. The column that say yes, yes, it means that it's open, it's loaded in the project. And then you have one is called borrowers and owners. A borrower is a person who has checked out a piece of that is working in an active piece of element. And then an owner has complete control over work sets. All of these we reviewed in the fundamentals, and I think a lot of you know this. What you might not know is that there's also all these additional work sets, like families. Each family, all the system families in the project are their own work sets. You also have views as a work set. So each view in the project is its own work set. And so sometimes when a person is working in a view, sometimes Revit the Revit central file control give you borrowing access to that view. And that's why you see that sometimes when you try to synchronize with central, you say, oh, this person has checked out a view. And that's because that person is working in the view, and that person needs to sync to central in order for you to sync to central. And then there's another set of worksets that are called project standards, which are settings that you can also selectively display or have a control. All these periphery or secondary worksets are not highly used. The ones we are most familiar are the user created. All right, I mean, I'm just for fun, I'm going to create another workset called site. And notice, because I created this workset, I am the owner of that workset. And when I'm the owner, no one can work on this workset. Then I hit OK here. They ask you if you want the site to be the active workset. I'm going to say no. And then every element in the project has now a workset property. So once a project is created as a central file, then there's a new parameter associated with every element. Oops. Yeah, so in the instance property, you'll see that there'll be a workset parameter associated with every element. If the project is not work share, this property is not available. And then the other thing that you will see is that there's this drop-down list of all the worksets in the project that activates as well. So we need to be aware what workset we place things. And then if I start working on something, for example, I grab this element, this tree, and I move it from one point to another point. When I touch anything in the project, I become a borrower. And a borrower is the person who's editing that object. And so in the workset dialog box, you will see that my name is now, I am a borrower, is my name. I am a borrower of workset 1 because I touch an element, I touch that tree that is placed on workset 1, and I am an owner of that element. If I want to save this file and share it with the rest of the team, I synchronize with Central. And notice that the synchronize with Central has this option called return user created worksets. What that means is that anything that, and it has another one called return borrow element. So if my name is associated as a borrower of any element or an owner of an element, I can choose to sync or not. By default is enable. You can add a comment. I mean, this is a version with moved tree. And this comment is useful because every time you sync with Central, there is a log of synchronized operations that you can selectively retrieve if anything happens to the project. And so this comment is one of the parameters visible when you try to restore an old project. So I hit OK here, and then when you sync to the cloud, there are 4 things that happen. You save to local, you reload the latest, then you save the central, and then you reload again. Depending on the size of the model, this could take a few minutes for a very large project. All right, and if I go back and review my worksets, notice that I I'm no longer a borrower of an object, but I'm still the owner of the site work sets. And the only way to return the site to others is to actually use the relinquish all mine. So when I relinquish all mine, then my name disappears from the owner column, and this project is open for others to start collaborating. All right, so let me show you what happens on the cloud side. So I created this file, I save it to I share it with I share it on the project. And in Revit, on their models, architecture, here's the file. And notice that there's a version, every file that it's sync, that is created in the cloud will start with a version 2. And so moving forward, if I make a change to this model and I synchronize with Central, that is going to share your changes to the cloud. But this version, the version is only going to, like, I think I told you that in Revit, there are 2 buckets of information. The work in progress, which is the live model. And then we have the static bucket, which is what you see in BIM Collaborate Pro, in the docs. And this is a published model. And so when we create a when we create a central file, we're actually, Revit automatically publish the version 1 and version 2 of the model in the cloud. And then moving forward, if you want to share a static published model in the cloud, you have to selectively, you have to choose when to do that. Like it's a declare activity. So the work in progress live model is not visible to you. This is not visible. And then the static one, it's visible. It's what's in there. Does that make sense? All right. So this is this has a list. This is the published file that I generated by creating the central file. And then you give description of who created, when it was created. But there's this misconception that every time you sync to Central, the cloud, the file that you see in docs will get a new version, and that's not true. All right, so the act of publishing a file, it's an operation that requires a user to decide when is okay to share a file and what content the file needs to have, right? So sharing is not just sending everything to the cloud. You need to make decisions about when and what is that you're going to share. And to decide what you're going to share, you actually need to set up a setting that is publish setting. So under the Collaborate tab, publish settings, this is where you create sets of drawings. A set is a collection of views and sheets that are part of a deliverable. And you can create as many sets with a combination of different views that will make it into the project. If a set is enabled in Revit prior to the sharing activity, then only the elements that are part of that set will travel with the file. So I'm going to create a new set here. And let's say that this is a set that is issued for issue for review. And this set is made of the sheets in the project. So I'm going to select the 2 sheets here. And by default, Revit is always going to include the default 3D in brackets view. So these 3D in brackets, it's always going to be shared. Whether you pick it or not, Revit is always going to pick that default 3D in brackets unless you tell them otherwise. So I'm going to pick some these elevations as part of the set, and I'm also going to pick one 3D view, the balcony view. So in total, when I share this to BIM Collaborate Pro on Docs, I'm going to have a total of 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 views, including the 3D in brackets. So I'm going to save it. I'm going to save this. Okay, I need to enable this and then save it. So all this checkbox will be part of the issue for review. And then I am deciding here what to share with the consultants. And every time you publish, you have to make that conscious decision. What is that I need to share on the cloud? You don't need to share everything about the cloud. You don't need to share everything about the model. You can be selective about what are the things that are important for your consultants to see. And this subset of information in Revit is called a package. So a package is a collection of views and sheets that are prepared by a consultant and that are suitable for consumption by other users. And so you create your set, and that's it. I'm going to again synchronize with Central so that set is remembered and shared to other users. But I haven't published this file yet. So let me show you how publish works. To publish a model, you have to go back into the Revit welcome screen. So from the welcome screen, you navigate to where the model is. This is the model. And notice that the model reports that there is an update available. It means that from the last time the model was published, which was here on 5:49 p.m., there are new changes created by this person, and the user has the ability to publish this as a new version. And so what the user does is select the file and publish. And publish is like making a copy from the work in progress file into the static bucket. So I'm going to click publish, hit the publish button, and then you wait it for process. And you can see there's the little icon of a circle awaiting for the model to be published. When the publish operation finish, then you're going to get this green checkbox that is a visual cue that the information in the cloud is the same as the information in the work in progress. So the act of publishing varies. This is going to take maybe just a handful of minutes, or is already done. But if the project is very complex, it has a lot of sheets, a lot of details, and depending on the file size, publishing can take up to, I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And so notice how here now Revit, it's thinking, it's processing the updated the updates, the publish updates, and once these finish, then I also have the ability to preview the file in the visualizer, and I will also see a new version. And so this is, if you see version 3 is getting processed. We started with version 2 when we created the cloud model, and then now it says version 3. This little circle is it compresses the geometry of the view so that it can be quickly, easily navigable in the viewer. Now it's finished. When it's finished, it's actually viewable. And this is version 3, and this display the model with the tree that I moved, and with the work sets that I published. And so you have to make changes in the model, and you have to manually publish it with a subset of sheets in order to see a new version. Now, in the viewer, you have access to the sheet and views. So here where it says sheet and views, this is the default 3D brackets that I picked from Revit. And in the 2D is the 2 sheets, the elevations. And so the sheets and view tab, it's a reflection of the information that you placed on the published settings. So all the information that you see here is the information that you see in the cloud, right here. And is associated with a version in the project. Now I can also access those sheets directly from the visualizer. I can use the markup tools that I show you how to do. You can even print directly from the cloud if needed, or you can share with other stakeholders that are part of the team, or download it. All right, but this is the process of publishing a file into your own discipline in the cloud, right? So this file is not yet accessible to your consultants. This is just available to you because it's placed in a dedicated folder called architecture, and only the architecture team has access to this folder. And so the design collaborate module allow you to create package of information and share it with consultants. The consultants has the ability to review the content and then consume it. And so that's what I'm going to explain next. So before I get there, any question here about how to create a central file hosted in the project and publishing a version of a model? All good?
I have a question. If you publish something and you accidentally publish something that you don't want to, can you retract it?
If you publish a version of documents that you did not want to share, you can always republish on top of it. But what you should not do is delete this, because this is if you delete this file here, and I should write that down, that's a big warning, delete the central file. So then you can always recover the central file, and project administrators and account managers can retrieve a deleted central file. Actually, in Revit, nothing get deleted permanently. Things get archived. And so you can archive that copy and republish a new one. Does that make sense? But never delete it. Don't delete a file in your discipline. Just republish it with the right information. And again, this is a version that is only visible to you and your discipline. So your consultants don't have access to that, typically in standard projects. In a standard projects, you restrict the access of the consultants to your work in progress folders. Any other question? All right, so here's where things get a little complicated, but there's a logic behind it. I'm going to show you now what is the design collaboration module. And I don't know if you have worked with design collaboration in the past. So design collaboration is a module in BIM in ACC that allow teams to create packages and distribute packages to other disciplines and consume packages from other disciplines as well. So for that, let me quickly create another yeah, I'm gonna very quickly create a central file of the structural version of this so that I can have at least 2 disciplines working here. So I'm gonna close this model. It's already synchronized with central. And then I'm gonna open the sample files and open this rack advanced RST advanced sample project. So this is the structural model of that school building. I'm going to go fast here. You collaborate, assuming that I am the structural engineer. It's going to ask me to save this file in an alternate location. You cannot do it in this read-only folder, so I'm going to put it also on my desktop. I'm going to collaborate and save this in the cloud. As a structural engineer, I have a dedicated folder in the project. Here is the project folder on the models structure, and then I save it. It's going to be sort of fast. It's Revit creating the work sets. It subdivides the geometry in these 2 buckets. Then I'll synchronize with central. A new model is created under the under docs. Under docs models, the structure. I guess it's finishing. Yeah, it's finishing. And so in this example, I'm going to show you 2. Here it is. The project has been saved. And here is where it appears. I'm going to close it here. I'm going to synchronize with central. This is going to relinquish. This is where the version 2 is created. That's when you sync the first time and relinquish all your information and close it. But before I leave, also the structural engineer is going to create a set that is going to be called issue for review. And the structural consultant pick the sheets he want to share with the rest of the team. So I'm going to pick. I'm just going to pick 3, so it does this fast, and the 3D in brackets. 4 views. Save and close. Synchronize with central. When I look at the cloud, notice that version 2 is created where as soon as you sync the central file and close it. And then the structural engineer closes this file. And when I go to the structural folder, notice that it's telling me that there's a new update. The update is that I make the changes in the list I added the published settings and I created a new set. So it's telling me that you can create a new shared document. And as a structural engineer, I publish this to the cloud, and that's going to create version 3 when this is finished processing. All right, so I have 2 consultants working in different locations using BIM Collaborate Pro. You see here that the versions are getting updated. Version 3 is getting updated. So this is 2 consultants who at the moment they haven't shared information between them. All right, any question here? So I'm going to jump into design collaboration module and show you how these 2 disciplines can start sharing packages. And so design collaboration under the home tab has I want to explain it first, what is the logic behind it, and then I'll go into the mechanics. So you have an architectural model, and then you have a structural model. Each of these disciplines publishes a static version, right? So this is let's call it this is the architectural model version 1, and this is the structural version 1. Then architects decided to create a package. A package is a collection of documents from this file, and it's going to put it in a place where structural can review it. So let's say that there's this share folder where the architect selects the sheets that he want to share with the structural, and then it places it into this bucket. And the structural does the same. The structural publishes, create a packages, and then place a version of this package in this placeholder space, and that is a share folder. And so now that the disciplines read each other information, the architect can read the structural information, and the structural can also read the architect's information. And then they can decide, is this information suitable for my use? Because sometimes, the structural may be missing stuff, or it's going to affect or going to impact the graphics of the architect. And so the shared space is a dedicated space where everybody places the models and everybody reviews each other models. And when the discipline decide that the counterparts are suitable for their use, they consume it. So they bring this version of the structural and link it into their model. And so this is a consume model. and the structural does the same. They explore the content of the architect, and if they like it, then they consume the package, and then they link it. And so it's a process where you stage a lot of information, you review it. If it's acceptable, you consume it, and then the links in the cloud are in this consume folder instead of a live link. This method of working, it's in line with the ISO standards. I think the ISO 19650, which says that in order to keep the quality control, teams need to be able to decide whether the information provided by the counterparts is suitable, and then they decide to consume it or not. Does that make sense? And so when we work in design collaboration, let me switch back to home here. No, here, the files. Docs. All right, so looking at this folder structure, all right, this is your work in progress. This is the dedicated folder where you have your files. Then when you create a package, Revit automatically move it into this folder that under the folder share. So this is the review space. And then in this share folder is accessible and viewable by everyone. After reviewing it, the discipline decided that the package is suitable for consumption, and then a copy of the file, it's placed under this folder called consume. And this is where the file remains as a link. Does that make sense? And so the files make the tool, what it does, it makes this round trip. You start by the work in progress, then it's moving to the review. And then from the review is moving to the consume. And then your file will be linked from the consume folder. Does that make sense at a high level?
Not really.
What's your question?
So if you could repeat the process. So we have a model in the architecture folder, and we publish the model for review. This published model is located now in the shared subcategory in the architecture folder. And when our consultants decide that the model is okay, they consume it. And then the model is also copied in the consumed folder, right?
You describe it correctly, yeah.
Okay, but the consumed folder, we don't have to create it. No. It is created automatically when the consultants decide to consume our model.
Correct.
How can we be sure that they have consumed the right version of the model?
Oh, that's the next step. So this is just a high level how it works. And I'm going to show you how you graphically prepare a package, share it, and consume it. And that's using the BIM Collaborate module. So that's the next step. But what you describe is what I want everyone to understand, that this consume folder, this share folder, and this discipline folder, you didn't create them. Revit create them when we start using the design collaborate module. So let me go to part 2 of that. How this is how you can see this. All right, so I'm going to switch to design collaboration. And let me introduce you to the swim lanes. So in the home tab of design collaboration, if you pull this tab, you're going to see that wait a second, I need to configure this to have a structural. I need to add a team. So in design collaboration, the person who set up the first time needs to set up different teams. Right now, I have a team called architecture, and I'm gonna need to add a new team called structural. This is a one-time setup, and this is to define what is the dedicated folder for each of the teams. And so here you go. So structural now has a dedicated folder, and architect has his own folder. And then if I had MEP, I will create a one. Again, this is a one-time setup just to define the collaboration spaces. All right. So I'll go back to the home page. And here you go. So I am an architect that has published from Revit. This is the swim lanes, and the swim lanes represent a timeline over a timeline of all the version of your model that you have published in your dedicated folder. So as an architect, there are two versions of published models. Version, and these are other models. This is not. Let me see. Where are my packages? Okay, here is Rack Advanced Sample Project version 3. Ignore these other two because these were the other ones that I created. This is the model that I published from Revit into their space. And so the swim lane represents a list of all the packages that each discipline has put in their work in progress file. So in other words, when I switch to docs, every time I publish a model from Revit into my folder, this rack sample, every time there's a new version of this project, then graphically, design collaboration is going to display a little square, represents a new published model. This square represents a published model. And so, and then I say, okay, this is a model that I have put in my folder. I'm ready to create a package for the consultants' use. So this plus sign, create a package. And a package will display the sets, the models, and the documents that I want to share with consultants. And so in this, see, right now I haven't selected anything. And so as an architect, I said, I want to share the Revit model, and I want to share the A sheets that, or the issue for review set that I publish with the model. And so a package is a collection of sets, sheets, and 3D views. So there's a total of 9 elements in the package I'm going to create. I save this, and I can call this the architecture review set. And I can save it. And I say, okay, this is the content of the set I want to share with my team. And then you share it. So when I click share, BIM, the tool will make a copy of this information and place it in the folder share that I was telling you earlier. And this does it automatically. You don't have to do that manually. When I click share here, it gives a name to the package. I share it. It starts packing all this information and you place a copy of this file under the share folder. So if I go back to I'm going to be shifting between Design Collaborate and Docs. So in Docs, I have under the share folder, under the architecture, notice that there's this file here that I didn't create. I didn't put it here. Well, I did it through the Design Collaborate model, but I didn't actually copy this file with I didn't drag it and drop it. The tool did it for me. And notice that it has a version control that has a separate line of versioning. And so this is the file I put forward for the consultants to check. All right, let me show you how the consultants use it. So I'm going to go back to Design Collaboration and open that tab here, the swim lane. And so this square represents the file that I published from Revit. And this little circle represents the subset of information I created from this published file that is suitable for consumption. And so the square is information in my folder. The circle is information I placed in the share folder, right? Okay, and so now I am a structural engineer, and I want to see what the architect has made available to me. And so as a structural engineer, I open the structural swim lane. The swim lanes are dedicated spaces for consultants. And in my swim lane, in the structural swim lane, I see that the architect has a little package share for me. And this little circle, empty circle, it's a visual indication that there is an architectural package awaiting for my consumption. And so the structural comes and say, okay, let's see what the architect has published for me. So you click this button from the architects, and it says, on this date, there's an architect for review. It has 6 sheets. It has 2 views. You can preview it. You can actually see what is it that the architect has shared with you. You can explore the subset of sheets. These are the sheets that the architect has shared with you in the share folder. And this is the model with a 3D view. And if after the structural engineer reviews all this information and deems that it's okay, then he consumes it. And when you consume it, BIM Collaborate is going to grab a copy of that share file and is going to put it in the consume folder of your discipline. So I'm going to consume it here. I'm a structural engineer. I'm going to consume the architect's file. Consume it. And let's see what happens in Docs. So again, I am a structural engineer, right? So, and I only have access to my structural engineer folder. So you go to the structural folder, and there's a consume folder here that was created by the tool. And when I open it, there's an architectural folder and the package or the packet that the architect shared with me. And so this file, this is the source of information where I link the architectural file inside the structural file. And so these are the mechanics that happens when we utilize BIM Collaborate Pro. And so there's this process of staging information for somebody to review it, somebody review it and consume it. And the process of sharing and consume it is done by the tool. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that yourself. And so as a structural engineer, let me go back to the structural model. This is the RST model. And I say, okay, I have reviewed the information of the architects. That package that is shared with me is suitable for my use. I'm going to link it. So insert manage links. And then from the manage link dialog box, I'm going to add the architect model. And you notice that it automatically go to these external files. External file is a way to navigate through the model. So go to projects, models. You don't go to the architectural file. You go to your own discipline, structural folder, consume folder, architecture. And this is the copy that you review from the architects that you approve to be used in your project. And then you link it directly from here. And then it should appear now, and you can continue working on it.
Can I ask something?
Mm-hmm.
Every time you consume a model, in the consumed folder, we have an overwritten file of the previous version, or we have to relink to different models, and these will. How many models do we have in our consumed folder every time we consume?
You will have, yeah.
Okay.
So this is version 1 of the consume model from the architects. Next time the architects share a new thing, as a structural engineer, you consume it, it's going to replace this file and it's going to make it folder 2 in the consume folder. You don't have to relink anymore. So the link is going to refresh automatically. You just have to link it the first time. And then from here moving forward, every time there is a new share package, and then the discipline consume it, then you can link directly from here moving forward, and the link will be refreshed automatically.
So this two-step process is only in the beginning. When you first consume the model, then you need to link it. Okay, got it.
So from this point forward, forget about the files. All you need to do is go to the design collaborate module and explore your consultant swim lines. And I'm a structural engineer, and then if there is a new like this is a package that is being consumed, you see, but there's a new version. Oh, that's the sample project. Yeah, this is the sample file that the architect created. And so all you need to do is always activate your discipline look at your consultants, see if there is a circle, a white circle. A white circle means that there is a package awaiting to be consumed. And then when you consume it, then it will automatically move a copy of that into the your discipline consume folder, and the link will be refreshed.
Another question, just to understand the whole process. As architects, we first publish and then we make the packages, or we don't have to make the packages? It's not something necessary.
No, you have to.
Okay.
Your discipline cannot create packages for you. I'm able to do that because I'm a project administrator, and I can have access to those folders, at a time. But in the sequence of events, you make changes in the model, you publish them into your folder, which creates this rectangle. Then you create a new package and leave it there. Then your consultants need to activate their swim lane, review the package that the architect create for them, and then consume it. And every consultant does the same. So to review the process, let's do the same, but let's do it the opposite. Let's now ask, I am a structural engineer who wants to share the structural engineer with the structural model with the architect. So a structure already published a model. It's in docs. And this square representation, it's a published version of the model that hasn't been created as a package. So as a structural engineer, I want to share my information to the architect. So I'm going to create a package for the architect. So create a new package. Revit present all the information where you can get when you can build this package. I'm going to select all this issue for review. And I'm also at the 3D view. So there's 3 sheets, 1 set, 1 3D view. This is the content that I want to share with the architect, my counterpart. I save it, and I create a package for him as soon as I share it. Share it will make a copy of my file from my discipline folder into the share folder. So I share it here, share it, and that's it. My job as an engineer is done. Now, as an architect, I go into design collaboration. I activate my lane, the architecture lane, and then you see, oh, a structural has a new package for me. What does they have shared with me? So you can, when this little circle is empty, like a white circle, that means that it's a package that hasn't been consumed. In fact, if you hover over, it says the structure created this package of information and it's shared on this date. So you review it. You can actually access the information, review the sets, the sheet, the model. And if this is appropriate for review, then you can consume it. And consume it is going to move a copy of the structural engineer file into the consume folder of your discipline. So I'm going to consume it. And back to my swim lane. Notice now that this package that I created is now solid. That means that I consume it on this date. And if I am on, I'm going to close this file, which is the structural file, and open the architectural file. So let's go back to docs. And then in docs, I open the my folder, architects, there's a consume folder that Design Collaborate created for you. There's a structural folder that Design Collaborate created for you. And this is the package that you consume from the share folder. And so in Revit, this is a one-time operation. In Revit, you link the structural model from the consume folder. And next time you consume packages from the structural, it's going to replace the version, and you don't have to refresh. The link will be refreshed automatically. So I'm going to link it here, manage links. This is a one-time operation. And then I go to my own discipline, architecture, consume, structure. Well, this is the structural folder that I reviewed and then I deem appropriate for my use. And then moving forward, you don't have to do anything. The link is going to refresh automatically. And that's the link over there. Any question?
So when you publish like version 1, version 2, version 3, it keeps a record, but it's not viewable. You as the architect keep like version 1, version 2, version 3, but it's not viewable. Those versions are not viewable to your consultants until you share it as a package. And that's when they can consume it and link it. But they cannot access that until you share a package.
Correct. You are correct. So going back here, in fact, if this share folder where everybody has access, I'm an architect and I see the structural model that they have shared. If they have continuously shared a package, I can see the different versions on top of each other here. But the structural cannot access the architectural model and the different published versions. Only the packages that the architect decide to share with the rest in the share folder. So let me see if I can diagram this better.
But if it is a live link, they see updates immediately, right?
Yeah, so this is a low risk and
risk,
high,
yeah.
This is the low risk and the other is the high risk. The live link, it's another method of using it. And in that scenario, whenever there's a published model, the architecture automatically links. But it's really high risk because it removes your ability to review your consultant file before consumption. And the risk is in that consultant files impact your documentation, right? Like you will see columns, you will see the works of the structural in your model, and it doesn't offer you an opportunity to review it. And so what I just show you is the low risk version, which has this intermediate review steps and allow you to use the full design collaboration swim lane method. So let me see if I can diagram here. The high risk, I'm just call it high R, is that you have architectural, structural, and mechanical. These are the published models. And then they all cross-link each other. And so every time the architect publishes their file, the link is automatically updated. And then the low risk, which is this method, is it has a more intermediate space. And so in this case, you have the architectural model, you publish, this is the published model. This is all cloud. You publish a set in this share space. The structural publishes a set, and mechanical publishes a set as well. And then in this space, you review it, and then you make a copy of that into your own folder, S and M, and then you link it. The structural does the same. They move the architectural and the mechanical from this space to here and to here. And then the mechanical copy the architectural and the structural, and then and then this space is called the consume. So work in progress, share, and this is the consume. So there's there's a handover process in which there are two quality control steps. Although it seems a little convoluted, I think this is like very practical and easy to do. You just cross-link the published versions. There are teams that want to put in place international standards, in particular international pieces of work. They choose to use this low risk as opposed to the high risk, because allow them to have a greater quality control over the product. Let's see if my recommendations. If you have a established relationship with a trusted consultant, and you've done this over and over, you have a history of working with a consultant, then you can choose to work high risk because you have a high trust, right? But if you have a high risk and low trust, you don't have a history of working with somebody, you don't know how they may be able to deliver information for you. The share consume method is probably a better way to have a greater quality control checks in the process.
Could I add a comment?
Yeah.
This is really valuable, even if you are trusted and experienced with the consultant team, because you may be in front of them and they don't want your published work to find its way into their documents right before a submittal. So this gives them the opportunity to kind of delay the update. You know, the drawings would be out of focus if someone studied them, but they won't be all jumbled up with the architectural link in the background. So they should want to go the low risk way anyway. Just my thought.
Yeah, in particular, you know how towards as you get closer to deliver a package, everybody crunches and everybody put a lot of information. You don't know the impact of that accelerated production is going to have in your sets. And so it's even more important to have a check in place to freeze the changes from the consultants at some point.
Yeah, I think that's what we normally suggest. Freeze the model 2 weeks before any published set. Right.
And so in that scenario, you can continue working in your sheets in the model, but then you stop the consumption with your consultant. The consultant stop consuming, consuming packages from your consultants a week or 2 weeks from the deadline, but you can continue adding like notes on your stuff, you know?
Yeah, and it's their choice, isn't it? Because you could continue to publish all the way up to the night of the submittal, but the consultant can look at it and go, no, that's going to really wreck me.
Correct.
So I'm going to wait. So it's their choice. They have control.
Agree.
Well, can I give an opposite opinion on that? I think the consume process is too slow. You know, we all have sat in coordination meeting after coordination meeting when you ask the structural engineer to not place a column, you know, where you don't want them to, and the way that the power of the live link is, it's there, it's in their face over and over until they reconcile that. If you push to publish, you know, I'm assuming everybody's doing at the end of on Friday every week, that column is going to get dragged out for 3 or 4 weeks. That's just my observation.
Well, that's why the initial stages live link makes sense, but to CD's time, you know, that time you need to be following this consumed method before 100% CD submittal or something.
But
Now,
Code, to your point, we're going to be able to see by looking at the swim lane whether or not they consumed it or not, and see what the status is of the column you're suggesting. So it gives you sort of leverage to call them and say, hey, look, this was published 2 weeks ago. Why is that column still not in the right place?
well, yeah, you can go and babysit that process, but the power of the live link is when you have a coordination meeting, you know, via Zoom or whatever. All the parties are sitting there, and everybody's looking at that one column. It's affecting mechanical, it's affecting architectural. The heat is on rather than everybody gets off the meeting. And then you're trying to, like, you know, track.
Yeah, I agree with you, but even if you use the safe method, you'll still in the meeting see that column in the wrong place via the architectural model, because the architectural model will be linked to an old consume model of the structure because they haven't updated it, and you'll see the conflict right there in the meeting. So it's going to happen whether you use this method or not. It's not contingent on using the live link method. Just my opinion.
I think that's about a 4-day delay or 5-day delay.
The timing is the same either way.
Yeah, once the model is published, all the swim lane is doing is making review copies of that published model in different folders. So it's not really republishing from scratch. It's basically,
oh, okay. Say that one more time.
So this process of creating a package and creating a package and consuming it, share it and consume it, all it does is grabbing copies of the published model in different folders. Is not republishing it again. So the publish operation, which is the one that is lengthy, publishing a model can take up to half an hour, depending on the file size. You'll have to do it anyway, regardless whether it's live link or not. Publish, it's a requirement. But once the publish happens, the operations that the swim lane does is just moving the same file onto different buckets. So you have these intermediate checks. So as far as a time, it doesn't. I think all you need to do is create your package, and that doesn't take a lot of time. It's actually cleaner because you are segregating information that it's suitable for your consultants to consume instead of giving it everything. There may be parts of your sheets, for example, that you may not want to share with your consultants. If you do live linking, they have access to everything.
Yeah, that's the downside.
Yeah, there's pros and cons. And again, I worked in offices where they use, depending on the type of project, they use either or. I guess at the end of the day, you decide how much risk you want to adopt in your project. But for the big institutional projects, state projects that they consume, for example, this was used at airports at HOK where I used to work, and took me a while to get them used to it. But now it's when everybody's familiar with how the process works,
Then
it's very simple. Yeah, I think it's just getting started. What seems to be convoluted, but it's actually not. It's not that complex. And moreover, understand what these consume and share folders are inside docs. In particular, when a new person comes and sees all these redundant copies of the files and not understanding that these are system folders created by Vim Collaborate Pro, it's something that, in particular, when you onboard somebody, let them understand what the share folder is, what the purpose is, what the consume folder is, what the purpose is, and how the tool works. I mean, you publish your file in your discipline, and then a copy of that file is placed into the share by the tool, and then a copy of this is placed in the consume by the tool.
You know, you said something that really is the heart of the problem, because we may really understand how this works and really want to use it, but then you get your team together, they've never used it before. There'll be all kinds of resistance to learning the new workflow, even though it would benefit everyone. So it just probably takes a kickoff meeting and maybe not really a training, but at least an introduction to what the way the project's going to be run, and then let them go off and either look at some YouTubes or educate themselves. It's not that hard. And then once they see the benefit and they understand the beauty of it, then you're off and flying.
Right. I think one protocol I used to have in place is to never let anyone touch a project until they are onboarded properly. And so if a new member is added, let them meet with the BIM coordinator or whoever has the BIM lead authority to guide them through how the structure of the project works.
Can I ask a question in regards to sort of an issue we run across a lot is we start drawing columns and shear walls in the architectural plan initially, you know, like SD and DD. And then we get the structure involved and they start drawing the columns and shear wall. At some point, we are going to turn off our columns and show their column. And the questions, you know, the method we played around with is like put our columns in work sets, turn that off. Is that your understanding, or is there a better workflow?
Honestly, I mean, that needs to be in the project execution plan and discussed way in anticipation. And so the model element table, which map which categories are created by different disciplines, would have that information. What is your responsibility up to what point? And so for example, architect tender columns and slabs up to the end of a schematic design, and then or at 50% DD. And then at that point moving forward, we're just relying on the information provided by the structural engineers. And I find that even when you move things in work sets, it's sometimes this double geometry appears no matter what. Mm-hmm. And what I feel more comfortable saving a copy of the central file, archiving it, and delete it, and just rely on the your consultant's information, because then you foolproof anyone from turning accidentally the content of that word sets and confuse the details. But again, it's a matter of best practice. If everyone is aware that there's a word set that need to be off in the documentation at all times, then you should. The other thing is that in the execution plan, you also need to discuss share benefits with the consultants. Sometimes structural, for example, display material that is not really suitable for architectural representation, like the hatch of the concrete is not the right one, or I don't know, things around the representation that the way the consultant does it is not aligned the way you do it. I mean, there are ways you can override linked files and the view templates, but sometimes having from the very beginning those discussions help structure a joint strategy so that both disciplines benefit from the way you put together the docs. I mean,
Yeah,
the other view. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
Go for it.
Well, on this topic, there's other tools as well that are really powerful. And I don't think that what Cesar's going to show you is going to include any of this. It might be something to think about, but there's a whole process called copy monitor that helps you to try to make sure that your elements are in the same position and the same type as the elements in the structural drawing. And that's a super powerful process, but trouble is not many people know how to use it, so it sort of falls by the wayside.
And it has the limitations, right? I think, for example, copy monitor doesn't respect the door openings, or it doesn't respect slab shapes that structural may have. Those few limitations, but you're right that if these are well discussed and you understand the limitations and those are limitations are addressed, then we could use that. I believe you can also copy monitor live fixtures, some MEP devices, at least for the first. That is, I have mixed feelings about keeping it permanent because too many copy monitor elements also impact Revit ability to process. All this relationship needs to be refreshed live at any point, and it impacts the performance if there are too many things that are copy monitor. And so just understand the limitations, understand how much of a certain tool you use in a project to restrict or be able to say, we're going to create copy monitoring up to these elements, but not these other elements, because there are too many of them.
And it is a bit of a nag because every time you load the project, it makes the review of the project, and then it makes a list of things that have changed and need to be addressed. So you have to kind of jump through that process. If you don't have time, you can postpone it and a lot of other things. But nevertheless, it's a cool attempt to try to solve the endless coordination effort between the consultant and the architect.
Yeah, agree. Agree. All right. I think at the beginning of next class, I'm going to show a little bit the new model coordination, which is the direction that Autodesk software is going. Model coordination is Navis work on the cloud. I don't know if you guys have a chance to use it, but inside docs, you can designate a coordination space, which is a folder where all the shared files live. and then the analysis of the physical clash happens automatically. I'm not going to have time today to show it, but I'll show it next time if you're interested. Just maybe the first 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we're going to shift gears and talk about family creation. All right, guys. So that's all I have for today. Any additional question before letting you go?
No.
Yeah.
Nope.
This was a good topic. It's obscure, but I think like everything, you just need to, I wish all BIM administrator would sit down, like, in the conference room and show all the team members what they're doing at these critical moments. It's, even though they're not doing it, it's just seeing it is part of the importance of it.
Yes. Agree. And disclose nuances of project specific. What I describe here is a very generic model, but then when you start just focusing on the specific of a project, in particular, sets of information that needs to be shared that are particular to a specific condition, then that's where more attention is needed, and that only happens with communication and onboarding and clear documentation of the execution plan.
Yeah, I think we're only missing one project manager in this group, aren't we? All right.
Everybody agreed.
Excellent. Well, next class, railing creation. We're going to talk about model coordination, and then I'll start with railings. Let me know if you need a compelling example of family creation. I think I want to move us away from the simple families and go with something that is a little more challenging.
Well, I was kind of hoping we'd do sort of profiles, extrusion kind of stuff for like trim and features on the outside of old buildings, cornices.
We can start with that one.
You can do that in railings too.
There's also one challenge that always gets me is stop the balustrades. Everybody wants to go to the YouTube video and they're drawing for some generic thing where it's not precisely placed. When you have to cut, stop, to have the definitive dimensions, that's always a pain. But I'm sure you'll come up with a better solution.
Okay, I'll review that.
I'm building a stair in my backyard, and it's easier to build the actual stair than to do it in Revit.
Oh, come on.
That is true. Because are you hosting in the stairs or on the floor? If you move it, it goes all flat. All right.
Cool. Curtain walls, is that relevant for you guys?
Yes,
Yeah.
we do that.
Yeah.
Here, just if we're talking Outlook for next class, having panels that are adaptive panels, like say, for instance, if you have a panel that you're putting in louvers and you want the ability to adjust the louvers that's hosting a louver panel that's hosting onto a curtain wall panel. That may be a little bit too convoluted, but that seems like an advanced thing.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I just taught my students at CCA how to do that.
Yeah.
And it's
cool. We're getting a preview.
Yeah. I'll just show it, and then so that where the kind of exercise that you will do. these are custom curtain panels that are parametric. And so these are, when you edit this curtain panel, is basically an array. And you define how many units, the size of the fin, and all those can be controlled individually by the curtain wall panel. So I'll do something like that.
Very cool.
Yeah. All right, guys. I don't want to stop you from dinner. I'll see you on Monday.
Thanks again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you,
guys.
Cesar.
Thank you, Susan.
Bye.
Bye.